Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. What's happening when it comes to public transportation there? I'm Paul Comfort, and on this episode of Transit Unplugged, the podcast, we talked to Patrick Preusser. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Denver RTD, the Regional Transportation District. And in that role, he does the day-to-day operations of the system and oversees them. And he is the fifth in 5 interviews in this 5-part series called The Doers here on Transit Unplugged, where we've talked to top leaders who aren't in the CEO position, but are some of the senior executives who are involved in kind of carrying out what the vision is and the implementation plan that the board of directors and the CEO have set in place. It's been a fascinating interview. Patrick and I are friends from the time when he was serving in Hawaii, and he actually talks about and gives us an update on what's happening there with HART and the elevated rail service, which is the first full in America without actually people driving it. It's an automated system. He gives us an update on that and also talks about all the great things that are happening in Denver, a new football stadium and service to the airport and expansions and the role of a COO, walks through the duties and the reporting, kind of gives you a breakdown and unpacks what it is to be a chief operating officer in today's public transportation system here in America. I think you really enjoy this conversation with my friend Patrick Preusser, Chief Operating Officer of the Denver RTD. Great to be with my friend Patrick Preusser today, who is Chief Operating Officer of the Denver Regional Transportation District, or RTD as it's commonly known. Thanks for being on the show, Patrick.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on the show, Paul. I'm glad to be here today.
You are the fifth and final entrant into our 5-part series called The Doers, which are the people that are actually doing the work day to day that the CEO and the board of directors set for them. It doesn't mean the CEOs don't do a lot of work too. They do, obviously. I used to be one, I know. But Amanda Vandergrift suggested that as a title because you're actually not as involved in setting the policy, especially as an operating officer. You're more involved in doing the policy, right?
Yes, I think that's a wonderful title for this table. I agree with that.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of positive feedback on this series too, brother. Hey, you and I have known each other for a while, and but never had you on the podcast. But for those who maybe aren't familiar around the world who listen to the show about Denver RTD, I think most in the U.S. are. Tell us some about the city of Denver, the transit system. I know you've got a real big airport there as well with a friend of mine that used to be in transit that is now the CEO there and all that. So give us the bird's eye view of Denver and Denver RTD.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do the best I can. We serve the greater Denver metropolitan area. Our agency itself is governed by a 15-member elected board. Our service district is quite large. It includes 8 counties, 40 municipalities, and it's just over 2,000 square miles.
Yeah,
and
pause right there. I want people to think about that. A service area of over 2,000 square miles. It's massive. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. No, it is massive. And that's one of the complexities of our service. Of course, you have the urban population and the rural populations, and, we want to do a good job serving both of those. And speaking of which, we serve a population of just over 3 million people. So from a workforce perspective, we have 3,500 employees. Our annual budget is about $1.3 billion. We're funded primarily through sales and use tax. We operate a pretty diverse network. We have bus, light rail, commuter rail, paratransit, on-demand services, and we're experimenting with microtransit. As far as our system size, we have over 100 bus routes, nearly 10,000 bus stops, over 115 miles of track, over 80 rail stations, and 4 commuter rail lines and 6 light rail lines. And then our fleet to support that service is nearly 1,000 buses, and we have over 60 commuter rail vehicles and about 200 light rail vehicles.
Where does that place you on the ranking of America's top 10 transit systems? Do you know? When I was in Baltimore, we were number 11. We had 6 modes and all that stuff, but we had 120 million passengers a year. That was pre-pandemic, obviously. It's gone way down since then. But do you know where that ranks you kind of in, the rankings?
Yeah, kind of in the middle. I don't know with this most recent ranking where we fall in. We do have about 135,000 passengers that we're serving each and every day, and about over 65 million annual boardings.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you're definitely in the top 10 then, aren't you, right? Of the transit system.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 10,000 bus stops, dude. I
It's a
mean,
lot.
when I was in Baltimore, we had 6,000. In the Baltimore Link program, we cut 1,000 out because there were
Yeah.
sometimes two on one block in the city and those kind of things. And we did a big study and all that. That's a lot of bus stops to service, brother.
Yes, we have a lot of bus stops and we have a great team that works on those and keep those in great shape for everybody. Speaking of which, we self-perform the majority of our operations, but we do have portions of our commuter rail, our fixed route bus service, and our paratransit that are contracted out. And then we have about 10 service unit slash maintenance depots across our district for that.
Yeah. Wasn't there a law passed a long time ago in Denver about a certain amount of your work had to be contracted out? Maybe that was before your time, but I think there was some kind of regulation on that.
Yeah, so there is a statute that says we are not to have more than 58% of our service contracted out. So it's more of a ceiling than a
Oh,
floor.
okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha. What do you have? Some of the big companies come in and like operate some of your bus service?
Yep, that's correct. We have a concessionaire agreement on the commuter rail side that was part of the public-private partnership, and then we have a third-party contractor that more than one, in fact, that helps us deliver the fixed route and the paratransit services.
And can you say who those are? Do you know who they are off the top of your head?
Yeah, so we have MTM, and then we have Transdev.
Transdev, gotcha. And how about your commuter trains? When I was in Baltimore, I actually had Amtrak do part of ours, and then Bombardier did one of the other routes. Do you know who does yours?
So again, this is set up through the public-private partnership, and it's an entity called Denver Transit Operators.
Oh yeah, I know those guys. Yes, I remember them. I went out there and met with them. I think when we did the TV show. I don't know if you remember, if you've seen that episode of Transit Unplugged TV. Some of those guys came out of Boston. They used to work there at MBTA, I think, or at the commuter rail up there, and they're really good. By the way, I remember meeting their safety people and all that. We came out and did a trip. Matter of fact, Patrick, I'll be out your way in a week. In 2 weeks, I'm going to ride the Rocky Mountaineer train.
Oh,
The
nice. Yeah,
new
that's
the
a
new
great
route.
service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes from Denver to Salt Lake City, and it's called Canyon Spirit, I think. And we're going to be on the media car like I was last time and ride with them. And I mean, that's a fantastic service too. Do you have any interaction with them?
We do because they use Denver Union Station. So we get involved with Amtrak. We get involved with the Winter Park Express that's operated out seasonally. And I'll talk a little bit later. There's some other exciting projects that are happening that interface with us at Denver Union Station as well. So that is definitely a major hub for us.
And how about the airport? You've got train service going out there, right? Because that's one of the biggest airports in America.
Yes, absolutely. So we're very fortunate in the sense that you can leave the airport and take a train and get directly downtown Union Station. So that is our A line. That's one of our highest ridership lines today.
Okay, yeah. And Phil's out there now. Came from
Yeah.
LA Metro and is there now. He actually texted me a couple weeks ago and said, Paul, I just watched one of your episodes of Transit Unplugged TV. I forget which one it was. And he was telling me how cool he thought it was. Said, great production value and all like that. We actually filmed a two-part series there in Denver and included him in it in one of the episodes, as well as Deborah. It's Phil Washington we're talking about, by the way, who spent a long time at LA Metro and really was one of our nation's leaders when it comes to transit service and now is CEO of one of the biggest airports. Talk about Deborah a little bit. She's well known in the industry, your boss, the CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say just in general, this is a great agency to work for. Our board has been very supportive and they certainly come together on our strategic priorities. We're very fortunate to have an outstanding leader in our CEO, Deborah Johnson. She is absolutely committed to our people, our customers, and really the long-term future of transit in this region. And I can't say enough about our employees. I mean, if you come out here and you visit, you'll see the passion in their work each and every day. And they really help us achieve our mission, which is making lives better through connections.
That's great. All right, let's talk about your role. So you're the only person I've had in this five-part series who is a COO, and I ended with you on purpose because that's really like the person that operates the day-to-day service. Differentiate what the role of the COO is as you can versus like the CEO. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, so I do everything that the CEO asked me to do, of course. In addition
Good
to that,
answer. Yeah. As a former CEO, I like that. But go ahead. Yeah.
what I would say is, a lot of it has to do with balancing strategy and the reality of day-to-day service delivery. As I mentioned earlier, on any given day, We're supporting over 135,000 customers across our network. So a big part of it is making sure our teams have what they need to deliver safe, reliable, and customer-focused service. Right now, spending a lot of time on, from a strategic standpoint, on revenue. What does long-term funding look like? What do some of those long-term projects look like? And then, of course, ridership. That's, important to everything that we do. We have a very ambitious service plan that we'll be putting into effect on June 7th. I think the community, the board, the employees are very excited about that. And then technology is also front of mind. We're fortunate we have one of our board members who established a committee to focus just on technology, and that's starting to activate and work is underway now. When I think about it, the COO role, and I think that's what I enjoy the most about it. You got the people part, you got the strategy part, but it's also a dynamic environment. Every day is different, and there's a lot of problem solving, and getting with the team and solving those problems is certainly rewarding. And you can also see the impact that we have each and every day when that service is out there on the line.
What are some of the key performance indicators that are your kind of North Stars that you're focused on delivering every day?
Yeah, so we got, of course, on-time performance, we got service availability, we have all of our costs per revenue mile, cost per revenue hour, mean distance between failures, all of the traditional kind of operating KPIs that you would expect. And what I would say is I have a fantastic team. They're laser focused. Teams have come together and they built BI dashboards so that everybody across the organization at all levels had the information that they need in order to be successful. And I talked a little bit about ridership earlier. That's certainly a KPI that's very important that we're watching. How are these lines performing? Are there ways that we can make improvements, whether that's through connections, span, frequency, to get people to opportunities and where they need to be?
Are you seeing the same trend that I'm hearing from other cities, which is on your commuter services, the nights and weekends have actually seen an uptick in ridership?
Well, interesting you asked that question because we were really one of the leaders in the pack when it comes to how we schedule on the commuter rail side of things. You've probably noticed there's been a trend in the industry where the traditional commuter service was AM, PM,
Right.
peak focused, right? Now they're going to more of a consistent schedule throughout the day. We've actually had that for the longest time. We were actually one of the first agencies to have 15-minute service in the commuter rail world, which is,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So a lot of our lines operate on a 30-minute or a 15-minute frequency, and sometimes that changes throughout the day based on demand. But
So you already had that. You were kind of
Yeah.
already like a regional rail versus commuter rail.
Exactly. Yeah. We were regional rail before it was cool to call it
Before it was
regional.
cool. Yeah. You and Dave Deck down there. So from a COO position for, kind of the uninitiated, what kind of positions report to you? Like who are your direct reports?
Yeah, so I have a really good team. So I have a deputy for the rail side of the house, and I have a deputy on the bus side. I also have a director level position that is responsible for training, quality management, and what we call O&M engineering. There is a director that is responsible for paratransit services. I have a director that's responsible for service planning and scheduling. I have a director that's responsible for what we call the regional operations center. So that is, all control center operations. And then I have a director that is responsible for contracted service and business operations. So they ensure that we have that, consistency across our contracted service, and that business operation piece ties to what I mentioned earlier, all the analytics, the reporting, some of the heavy lifting that comes there. They do all of that support across our operations team. So it's a phenomenal team. I'm super fortunate to have them. They're doing great things.
Thanks for listening to the Transit Unplugged podcast. We are so glad you're here. If you're enjoying this show, we know you'll love our other transit industry programs. On Transit Unplugged TV, Paul Comfort explores the food, culture, and transit systems around the globe. You get to see everything. You'll love this show. And every week, we also offer up the Transit Unplugged News Minute, where you can get the latest industry headlines in less than 60 seconds. You can find out more at transitunplugged.com. Now back to Paul Comfort for this edition of the award-winning Transit Unplugged podcast.
Tell me some about your background. I mean, I know some because we've crossed paths in one of your previous jobs in Hawaii, but give us your background and how you ended up there at RTD.
Yeah. So, now that I look back at it, I started in this agency really young. I started outside of high school and, I was a transit user back then, to and from school, the store.
Where at? What city?
So in Chicago.
Okay. Yeah.
So when we talk about CTA and we talk about PACE and Metra, very familiar with those operations and very fortunate, honestly, to start off in a city that has such a great kind of multimodal transportation network. And now that I look back, it's been 3 decades.
Yeah.
I've been in the industry. So, I grew up on transit. I started out really on the freight side of things. And then very early on in my career, I transitioned over to commuter, passenger, and transit and really never looked back. All of my higher education came later in life after being married with kids. Really, from that doer aspect that you mentioned earlier, really did a lot of doing over the years and worked my way up through the various ranks of supervision and management to my current roles. And what I can say is there's no way I'd be sitting here talking to you today without the support and sacrifice that I've had from my family, from, great leaders that I've worked under, and all of the teams and employees who have supported me over the years. It's been a great journey. Had some unique opportunities. I've worked on and contributed to some projects overseas as well. And you mentioned Hawaii. They have a great transportation system.
Yeah. What did you do there? Because that's when I met you with Roger. What were you doing there? Were you the COO there?
So the position titles were a little bit different because that's the city and county of Honolulu.
Right.
For there. So I was the leader when it comes to transportation there, overseeing. One of the major projects that we were overseeing was the really commencing passenger service on the new metro. So that's a phenomenal service. It's the first driverless system with grade of automation 4 technology in the US. And we were able to open that service the first 10 miles. And just to give you an idea from a performance perspective and a customer experience perspective, 99.5% system service availability on that type of operation. And one thing that folks, aren't too familiar with is the financing of that project. When it gets completed in 2030, it'll actually be paid for, Paul. So that's
Paid for. No debt service?
Yes, absolutely.
Dude, come on now. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. I was impressed with Lori, who was kind of heading it up when I was there. They call it the Heart, right?
Yeah, so Lori Kahina, she is the CEO at Heart and just a wonderful leader. She's got a tremendous amount of experience in Hawaii and in transportation. And under her leadership, they've been really able to move that project forward. Just this past year, they opened the second phase of that project, which included going to the Middle Street Transit Center. They now serve the airport in Pearl Harbor. And then in 2030, they'll bring it to the urban core. And that's when it's going to get really exciting because, as you can imagine, that's where all the density is. And if you've ever been to Hawaii, Oahu in particular, and you've traveled from the west side into town, that transit system is needed.
Yes. They have a great system there called Oahu Transit Services, OTS, with a good leadership team there. I spent some time with them a couple times. And I got to tell you, and then we'll switch back to Denver. My favorite place is that Poly Overlook, where you drive up into the mountains and the wind is blowing in at a constant like 30 to 50 miles per hour, the trade winds. You could almost lean into it, man. It's just, you just have like a visceral, all-encompassing feeling when you're there. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's really an opportunity to connect with the community and the land. I can tell you, food is always something wonderful as well, and I've been able to enjoy some of that fresh ahi tuna, that was caught, at the market, and it's just a wonderful place.
Yeah, John Nucci took us out to a place called Zippy's, which is like where the local people get their food, and we tried everything, man. It was awesome there.
Yeah, Zippy's is it's fantastic. It's like the McDonald's of Hawaii.
That's great. All right, now that we're done with that foray, and by the way, for our listeners, if you're interested, we actually filmed there a few years ago with Patrick and with John Nucci and all those guys, and we have an episode of Transit Unplugged TV on our YouTube channel where you can kind of see what he was just talking about with the train when they were first getting it set up. I think you were testing it when we were there. So anyway, let's go back to Denver now. So we've established what a massive system it is, the service area and all the multi-modes. And like most large systems, there's this fiscal cliff that a lot of people have had coming up, and we're aware of that. What other kind of things, though, are you proud of that are happening there right now or you see in the near future?
Yeah, well, just in Denver in general, what I would say, it's a very unique place for transit because there's this combination of, yes, it's a growing region, there's strong infrastructure and a big focus on quality of life. We talked about the airport a little bit earlier, but it's one of the most connected airports that we have in the US, and you can literally land and then take a train directly into downtown. Downtown Denver is extremely walkable, and there's great restaurants, museums, and there's upwards of 6 major sport teams, all within 15-minute walk. You got hotels, restaurants, any sport team that you want to go to. You're only about 20 minutes to hiking in the foothills, which is phenomenal, and a couple of hours from some of the world-class destinations in the mountains like Breckenridge. It's phenomenal to be part of this region and for this system to help connect people not only to jobs, but also to, recreation, as well as opportunities. So there's a saying here, and it's absolutely true. Denver has the American frontier spirit with some modern growth that's going on.
Yeah, the Mile High City. Hey, last time I was there, I met with, I think it was your deputy police chief, and he was showing me these great new programs you've got to improve safety and all like that, and you were seeing some real results. That was probably 2 or 3 years ago. Can you bring us up to date on what you all are doing? The administration's put a heavy focus on, safety and all that kind of stuff. So where are you at on that?
Yeah, so that's our chief of police, Stephen Marvingano. He's wonderful. He's wonderful. He has really helped us at this agency build out a fantastic police force. And some of the things that they're doing, the monthly security-related calls have dropped approximately 25%. They've increased police presence and proof of payment checks across all of the systems, bus, rail, you name it. And they have a real focus on community-oriented policing and just overall perception around safety. So I can tell you that is something that I would say, we are also leading from an industry perspective when it comes to safety and security on the transit system in the Denver metro region area. I can't talk more highly about it. And the chief's been doing a wonderful job.
That's great, man. Awesome. Well, as we come to the end of our time, is there anything else you want to talk about the agency or what plans you have or what you see coming?
Yeah. So just, I guess, from a future perspective, what I would say is we have some key initiatives. So we have an East Colfax bus rapid transit system that's going to be coming online in 2028.
Everybody's doing BRT, baby.
Yeah. What that looks like is about 10 miles, has 32 stations. We'll have some center running lanes, and then we have procurement underway for about 50 new buses. So we're extremely excited about that. We have phase 4 of our downtown rail reconstruction project program. So just like many agencies, we're kind of in the middle of that life cycle, and we're doing a lot of state of good repair. Just this past year, we finished another major repair downtown, and that was done by our Deputy CEO, Angel Pena, and completed from a scope, schedule, and budget perspective, all on time. So that was great. We have some major developments going on in the region when it comes to some of our sports teams. And I don't know if you've heard, but we have a new Broncos stadium that's going to be going up here. And something that's unique about that is it's also privately funded. And it's going to be and remain adjacent to our light rail system. And that's going to include an entertainment district as well as housing. We also have a new soccer stadium that's being built for the Denver Summit. So when you think of a city of this size, and we already talked about the population being 3 million, and just the amount of densification that's going to happen in an urban core setting and what the potential is for transit, it's unbelievable. So we're extremely excited about that. What I'd also mention is we're just about to launch a comprehensive operational analysis. So that's going to help us with some of our short range service improvements. And then, of course, help us refine our long-term vision for transit service in this region. So lots of exciting things to be on the lookout from RTD coming up.
That's great, Patrick. We wish you all the best as you are one of the doers that are making all those things, all those plans happen, brother.
Yeah, well, I turn that back to my team, and I do like that label, Doers. So we couldn't be doing it without the team, and I'm very fortunate to have them. And again, just the teamwork and the one team approach that our employees as a whole have been taking to help us deliver service across this community has been fantastic. Couldn't ask for a better team.
That's great. Well, thank you, my friend, for being a guest today on Transit Unplugged and sharing some of the best practices and exciting things that are going on in Denver, taking us back on a quick look at what your role there in Honolulu and an update on what's happening. That's good to know. I didn't know all those great details on it, especially the fact that it's going to be paid for. That's pretty cool. And we wish you all the best. And I'll be out in your neck of the woods in a couple. I probably won't see you because I'm going to the airport and getting right on the train. But we'll have a brief look over Denver while we're there. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Paul. Really appreciate what you're doing with the industry and just happy to be a contributor. And I hope you enjoy your travels and your journey. I think it sounds like it's going to be fantastic.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Transit Unplugged, the world's #1 transit executive podcast. I'm Julie Gates, executive producer of the podcast. Many thanks to the team that makes this show happen. Host and producer Paul Comfort, producer Chris O'Keefe, editor Patrick Emile, associate producer Cindy Raskin. Transit Unplugged is being brought to you by Midaxo, passionate about moving the world's people. If you would enjoy behind-the-scenes insights and updates from the show, sign up for our weekly newsletter, which has links to can't-miss conversations with the biggest names in mobility. Head to transitunplugged.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Transit Unplugged.